The palace of the alien queen stood in silence. Its high towers were cracked and its golden walls were dark with dust. Once, songs of power had filled these halls, but now only the sound of wind moved through the broken windows. In the great throne room, she sat alone, the queen of a proud people now left behind. Her crown was still on her head, but her body was broken. From the waist down she could not move. Her legs were lifeless. Her throne a prison. No servants remained, no soldiers kept watch. All had abandoned her after the war. They called her useless, cursed, a burden to the kingdom. They left her in silence, to wither and vanish in shame, but her eyes still held fire, sharp and alive. She had not given up hope, not yet. Every day she whispered to herself, "Someone will come. Someone will not turn away." But every passing day proved her wrong. No healer came. No ally dared. No one wanted to risk their own life for a queen who could not even stand. Far away in the ruins beyond the city, a human medic walked carefully through the dust. He had come with nothing more than a bag of supplies and a heart that refused to ignore pain. His people had taught him to heal, not to rule, not to fight. But sometimes healing demanded courage greater than war. The medic entered the palace by chance. Searching for survivors, his boots echoed in the long halls. His lamp threw light on broken statues and torn banners. The air smelled of ash and forgotten tears. He stopped when he heard something faint, a whisper, a voice too weak to shout. "Help, me!" His chest tightened. He followed the sound step by step into the throne room. At first he thought the figure on the throne was stone. She did not move, her body still as marble. But then her eyes opened, deep and glowing. "You are not one of us," she said, her voice dry like dust. "No," the medic answered, kneeling slowly. "I am human. I came here to help." The queen laughed bitterly, a laugh that broke into a cough. "Help? Many promised that. Many lied. They all left me here." The medic's gaze fell to her legs, unmoving, thin and weak. He saw the scars, the old wounds never treated. His hands shook, not with fear but with anger at such cruelty. How could they leave their queen in this state? He opened his bag and took out water, holding it to her lips. For a moment her proud eyes softened. She drank and a tear slid down her cheek, not from weakness but from the shock of kindness. "You should leave," she whispered. "They will hate you for touching me. They will call you cursed like they did me." But the medic only looked at her and said, "A healer does not leave the dying. A healer does not fear curses." For the first time in many years, the queen felt something new. Hope. It was small, fragile, like a spark in the dark, but it burned in her heart. She stared at the human, wondering if fate had finally sent the one soul brave enough to stay. The throne room seemed to grow colder as shadows stirred in the corners. Someone was watching. Someone did not want her healed. The medic did not notice yet, but the queen's sharp eyes saw the faint glimmer of blades in the dark. Her lips parted. But she said nothing. She only thought, "If this human stays, he will face dangers he does not yet see." And so the throne remained silent. But for the first time in years, it was not empty of hope. The human medic did not turn away. He stayed on, one knee before the broken queen. Her face was pale, her crown tilted, yet her eyes still burned with pride. For a long moment neither spoke. The silence felt heavy, as if the ruined palace itself was holding its breath. Finally, the medic's hands moved. Careful, steady, he pulled out his worn leather kit. Inside were simple tools, bandages, salves, herbs, things most would call worthless here. But to him, even a small tool could mean life. "May I?" he asked, looking into her eyes. The queen studied him. Her people had left her to rot. They had called her cursed. They had feared her broken body. And yet this stranger, this human, asked for permission. For a second, her lips trembled. Then, she nodded. The medic leaned closer. He touched her arm, light as air. She flinched, not from pain but from shock. No one had touched her gently in years. He noticed the bruises, the sores hidden beneath her long robes. His chest tightened. This was not only a wound of flesh, it was a wound of neglect. "You are hurt," he whispered, more to himself than to her. "Of course I am," she answered bitterly. "No one cared to heal me. They wanted me to die here, forgotten on this throne." The medic's eyes fell lower to her legs. They were thin, unmoving, lifeless. He pressed lightly on her skin, cold to the touch. She did not feel it, not at all. Her voice was low, almost ashamed. "I cannot walk, not since the war. They said a queen who cannot stand is no queen at all." The medic frowned. His mind searched through the knowledge of bone and nerve. He had seen soldiers with crushed spines, miners with twisted backs. Not all could be healed. But sometimes there was hope. "I will try," he said firmly. She shook her head. "Why? What are you, human? A fool? A dreamer? No one helps the helpless." "I am a healer," he answered simply. "And healers do not choose only the strong." For the first time in years, her proud eyes softened. She looked at him as if searching for lies, but found none. Still her gaze darted to the shadows. The ruined palace was not as empty as it seemed. In the corners, beyond the broken pillars, she had often felt eyes on her. Whispers moved like snakes through the dust. Some wanted her weak. Some wanted her dead. "You must leave," she whispered, fear touching her voice now. "If they see you, they will kill you too." But the medic did not rise. He placed his hand gently over her unmoving legs. His voice was steady. "Then let them try. My hands will not leave you. Not while you breathe." The queen's chest rose and fell. Her heart pounded with a rhythm she thought she had lost. Hope, dangerous and sharp, cut into her once more. She had buried hope long ago, but this human dug it out again. The medic began his work. He cleaned the sores with water, pressed herbs to her wounds, bound cloth gently around her legs. It was slow, careful, patient. His hands never rushed. Every move told her he did not see her as broken but as someone worth saving. Her throat tightened. A tear rolled down her cheek. She turned her face away, unwilling to let him see. But he saw, and he said nothing. He only kept working. The throne. Room grew colder. Shadows shifted again. This time the medic noticed. His eyes flicked up, sharp. He felt the weight of being watched. The queen whispered, "They do not want me healed. If you stay, you will be hunted." The medic tightened the last bandage and looked into her eyes. His voice was quiet, but stronger than stone. "Then let them come." Her lips parted, but no words came. For the first time in years, she felt less like a prisoner, and more like a queen again, and it was all because one human refused to turn away. The human medic worked in silence. His hands moved with care, his heart beat with steady courage. The queen watched him closely, her sharp eyes filled with something between fear and wonder. She had been alone for so long that even kindness felt strange, but memories rose inside her like ghosts. Memories of the day she begged her own people for help. She remembered calling the healers, men and women with glowing hands and silver tools. They came, looked at her broken body, and turned away. "A queen who cannot walk cannot rule," they said. "Why waste our gifts on her?" She remembered the soldiers who once swore loyalty. When she cried out from her throne, they lowered their heads and marched away. They whispered that her weakness was a curse, that touching her would bring doom. She was left in the cold. Her crown heavy on her head, her throne a cage of shame. The medic noticed her silence. He saw the pain in her eyes, not only the pain of the body, but of betrayal. "They left you," he said softly. "They abandoned me," she answered, her voice bitter. Not one remained. They feared weakness more than they feared dishonor. Even my closest counsel, even my blood. They turned from me. The medic paused. His jaw tightened. He had seen many kinds of wounds in his life. Some could be treated with herbs and bandages. Others were wounds of the soul, and these were the hardest to heal. "Where I come from," he said quietly, "we do not abandon the injured. The weak are protected, the sick are cared for. A leader who cannot walk may still be strong, but your people were too blind to see." Her eyes widened slightly. She had never heard such words. not even in her proudest days. "Strange human," she whispered. "You speak as if weakness is not death." "Because it is not," he replied. "Weakness is not the end. It is the reason for others to stand beside you." She fell silent again. Her mind battled itself. She wanted to believe him, but the scars of betrayal were deep. She thought of the healers, the soldiers, the nobles, all who laughed or ignored her cries. The memory burned. The medic continued working. His hands traced the broken line of her spine. He pressed lightly, testing. She did not feel it. Not yet. But he kept trying. He refused to stop. In the far shadows of the hall, whispers stirred. Unseen voices moved. The queen's sharp ears caught them. She stiffened. Her gaze shifted. But she said nothing. She knew who they were. Spies. Watchers. The ones who had always kept her weak. They would not allow her to rise again. The medic sensed her unease. "What is it?" he asked. "They watch us," she murmured. "They always do. They will not forgive you for helping me. They will call you a traitor, cursed, an enemy of their order." He glanced toward the shadows. He could not see, but he believed her. Still, he returned his eyes to her face and said, "Then let them call me what they want. I came to heal, not to fear." Her chest rose and fell sharply. For the first time in years, she felt like she was not abandoned. For the first time, someone stood with her instead of turning away. A faint warmth spread in her chest, fragile and strange. It was not just hope. It was trust. Dangerous but impossible to stop, she whispered, almost to herself. Perhaps not all will refuse. Perhaps one hand is enough to change a throne of silence into a throne of life. The medic did not hear all her words, but he saw the light in her eyes. He knew then that his task was not only to heal her body, but to heal the wound left by the refusal of many. And though shadows gathered in the hall, he silently promised he would not leave her. Not like the others. Never. The throne room was quiet except for the sound of the humans breathing. He worked with care, adjusting bandages, checking her fragile body. The queen sat tall but unmoving, her pride refusing to let her show weakness. Yet inside her heart, a storm raged. She had never imagined she would allow a stranger, a human so close. When his hand brushed her arm again, she froze. Her eyes widened. It had been years since anyone dared to touch her without cruelty or fear. The last touches she remembered were rough. Guards dragging her, servants shoving food near her throne. Never soft, never gentle. The medic did not pull away. His touch was steady, respectful, not claiming, only offering. He whispered, "You are not alone anymore." The words sank into her chest like a blade, not painful but sharp with truth. Her people had called her cursed, untouchable. Yet this man touched her as if she were not broken at all. For the first time she felt like a queen again, not a shadow on a throne. Slowly he moved to her legs. "I must see the wound," he said. His tone was calm, but his eyes carried a weight of care. She wanted to resist. Her pride screamed, but something in his gaze stilled her. "Do as you must," she whispered. He lifted the cloth that covered her legs. The sight cut deep into his heart. Her skin was pale and thin, scars twisted across her hips. He saw where blades had struck long ago, where fire had burned nerves to silence. It was not only injury, it was a wound left untreated for too long. His hands trembled with anger at the cruelty, but his voice was soft. "They should have healed this. They chose to let you suffer. Her." Lips pressed tight. She turned her face away, ashamed. "Do not look at me, human. I am broken. I am not worth your eyes." But he shook his head firmly. "No, you are worth every moment. Broken does not mean worthless." Her throat tightened. A tear threatened, but she forced it back. She was a queen. She could not cry before a stranger. Yet something inside her cracked when his hand, warm and steady, rested lightly on her lifeless leg. It was not the touch of a lover or a servant. It was the touch of someone who cared. A healer's touch, a human touch, and it burned through the years of cold loneliness like sunlight breaking through clouds. For a moment she felt something strange. Her foot twitched faintly, barely more, then a whisper of movement. Her breath caught, her eyes snapped to his face. "Did you see?" she whispered, hope trembling in her voice. "Yes," he said, his smile faint but fierce. "Your body remembers. It is not the end." Her heart raced. She had long buried the thought of walking again, but now the idea rose like fire. She wanted to believe, but fear coiled tight. What if it was only false hope? Before she could speak, a faint sound echoed through the ruined hall. Metal scraping stone, the medic's head lifted sharply. He turned, eyes narrowing, shadows shifted, watching, waiting. "They come," she whispered, her voice shaking. "They always come when hope returns." The medic stood, shielding her body with his own. His jaw was hard. "Let them," he said. "They will not take this from you." The queen stared at him, her heart pounding. For so long she had known only cold refusals, yet this one human, a stranger, had given her warmth with nothing more than a touch. A touch that might change her fate forever, and as the shadows crept closer she thought for the first time in many years, "Perhaps I am not cursed. Perhaps I am chosen." The human medic stood in the ruined throne room. His hands were still warm from touching the queen's broken body, but his eyes had turned cold. He knew danger was near. The scrape of steel, the faint shuffle of feet. It was not his imagination. The queen's gaze flicked to the corners of the hall. She knew these shadows too well. They had always been there, the silent watchers who made sure she remained weak. She whispered, "They do not want me healed. If you continue, they will kill you." The medic clenched his jaw. His hand went to the small knife at his belt. It was not a soldier's blade, only a healer's tool, but in his grip, it looked like a promise. "Let them come," he said quietly. "I will not stop." From the dark, 3 figures stepped forward. Their bodies were wrapped in black, their eyes glowing faint in the torchlight. They were not servants, not guards. They were executioners. One spoke, his voice cruel and cold. "Human, you do not belong here. Leave the cursed one to her silence. Walk away and you may live." The medic did not move. His body blocked the queen from their sight. His voice was steady. "A healer does not abandon a patient. She will not be left to die." The queen's heart pounded. She had seen men tremble before these assassins, yet this human stood firm, his back straight, his words unshaken. She whispered, "They will cut you down." But the medic only whispered back, "Not before I make them bleed." The first assassin rushed forward, blade flashing. The medic dodged, his movements quick. He was no trained warrior, but his hands had learned precision from years of saving lives. He ducked, slashed with his small knife. The assassin staggered. Back with a hiss, the second came, faster, striking at his chest. The medic caught the blow with his forearm, pain tearing through him. Blood spilled, but he did not cry out. He pushed forward, striking with desperation. He was a healer, but tonight he fought like a cornered wolf. The queen's eyes widened, her breath caught. She had thought of him as gentle, fragile even, yet here he was, bleeding for her, fighting for her. When all her own people had left, this stranger risked his life. The third assassin stayed in the shadows, watching. His eyes burned with hatred. He whispered, "We will end this tomorrow. We will cut both healer and queen before hope takes root again." Then he vanished back into the darkness. The medic drove back the second attacker with a sharp strike. The first limped away, clutching his wound. In moments, the throne room was silent again, except for the medic's heavy breath. He turned, blood on his arm. His eyes met the queen's. She whispered, "Why do you fight? You could leave. You could live." He shook his head. "Because I am human, and where I come from, we do not leave the broken behind." Her lips trembled. For the first time, she felt a warmth deep in her chest that no fire had given her. She whispered, "You are a fool. But perhaps you are my only fool." The medic sank to one knee, sweat dripping. He cleaned his wound quickly. His hands did not stop shaking, but his eyes did not lose their light. He looked up at her, voice quiet but firm. They will come again. You must be ready. The queen nodded slowly. For the first time in many years, she was not ready to die. She was ready to fight, because one human stood with her against the enemies within. Night fell heavy on the ruined palace. The broken towers stood like black teeth against the red sky. The medic had cleaned his wounds, but his arm still throbbed with pain. He refused to rest. Instead, he sat near the queen's throne, watching the shadows, waiting. The queen's eyes never left him. She could see his exhaustion, the way his shoulders sagged, yet his gaze burned steady. He had chosen to stay, and that choice weighed heavier on her heart than the crown she wore. Human, she whispered. They will come again. They never forgive, not when hope dares to rise. He nodded, his hand resting on his knife. Let them come tonight. We do not surrender. The night deepened, the air turned cold. Then it began. The sound of footsteps, the hiss of blades. Shadows poured into the throne room like a tide of black fire. 5 assassins this time, their eyes glowing like coals. Their leader stepped forward, his voice sharp as steel. This ends tonight. The cursed queen dies, and the fool who protects her dies with her. The medic stood. His heart pounded, but his feet did not move. If you want her life, he said, you must take mine first. The queen's breath caught. She had heard warriors speak with pride before, but never with such quiet, unshakable truth. The assassins attacked. Blades flashed in the dark. The medic moved faster than they expected. His hands, trained to heal, struck with precision. He ducked under one strike, cut low with his small knife. Blood sprayed. The first assassin fell, but the second slashed across his side. Pain ripped through him. His knees wavered. The queen gasped. No. He forced himself up, his eyes wild with determination. He blocked another strike with his bare hand, blood running down his palm. With a roar, he shoved the attacker back, his knife pierced deep. The throne room shook with the clash of steel and desperate breath. The medic fought not with strength, but with will. Every move said the same thing: I will not leave her. The queen's hands trembled on the arms of her throne. She could not move, could not rise to fight beside him. Helplessness clawed at her heart. She had been abandoned before, but never had she seen anyone fight for her like this. Tears burned her eyes. 3 assassins remained circling. The medic staggered, his body bleeding from a dozen wounds. Still, he stood, his voice broke the silence. I am human, we do not give up. The words echoed through the ruined hall like a battle cry. The queen whispered them to herself, clinging to the sound. One assassin lunged. The medic twisted, pain screaming in his body. His knife cut once more. Another enemy fell, the last. 2 struck together, blades crossing like twin fangs. The medic blocked one, but the second cut across his shoulder. He gritted his teeth, refusing to fall. He slammed his head into the first, then drove his knife into the second. Silence followed. The last assassin gasped, collapsed. The hall smelled of iron and smoke. The medic swayed on his feet, blood dripping onto the stone. The queen cried out, Enough, you cannot fight more, you will die. He turned to her, his chest heaving, his face pale but his eyes still alive. If I die keeping you safe, then I have done my duty. She stared at him, her heart breaking and burning at once. No soldier, no ally, no lover had ever spoken such words. Only this human, bleeding and weak, yet stronger than all who had abandoned her. Shadows shifted once more. The leader of the assassins rose weakly, blood on his mouth. He hissed, You cannot win, healer. Tomorrow more will come. You will drown in our blades. Then he vanished into the dark, leaving only silence behind. The medic fell to his knees, gasping. The queen wanted to rush to him to hold him, but her body betrayed her. She whispered, Do not leave me. He lifted his head, his lips curved in a faint smile. Never. And in that moment, though the night still held danger, the queen felt the first true fire in her chest, not the fire of war, but the fire of hope, reborn through the courage of one human. The ruins were silent except for the sound of the medic's tools clinking against stone. Night after night he worked beside the forgotten queen. His hands were rough, scarred from battles with disease and wounds. yet steady as they tried to. Create something new, a brace, a support, a way for her broken body to rise again. The queen sat in her cracked throne, wrapped in faded cloth, her body still paralyzed. Her sharp eyes followed every move he made. She did not speak at first, but her silence was not empty. It was heavy, like a question. Why do you keep trying? The medic had asked himself the same question many times. His strength was fading. His back ached, and his arms trembled from long hours of work. His body screamed for rest, yet his heart refused to stop. Every time he looked at the queen's eyes, bright, proud, refusing to die, he felt fire inside him. He could not walk away. His first brace had broken within moments. The second slipped uselessly to the floor. The third cracked under the queen's weight before she even moved. Failure after failure lay scattered around them like bones. Any other man would have abandoned the task. But the medic gathered the broken pieces and began again. The queen finally spoke, her voice sharp but trembling. "You are foolish, human. No one else has tried this much. Why do you waste your strength on me?" He looked at her, sweat dripping down his face. "Because you are not a waste," he said simply. "Because you are still alive. And as you breathe, I will fight for you." Her lips pressed together. She had been mocked, cursed, and left to rot by her own people. No one had fought for her dignity. No one had believed her life was worth saving. And now this fragile human, with nothing but his bare hands and stubborn will, was refusing to let her fade. Tears gathered in her eyes, though she tried to hide them. For years, her heart had been cold, wrapped in chains of betrayal. But now, the chains cracked. The medic tightened straps on the newest brace, whispering to himself as if speaking to the broken wood and metal. "Hold this time. Please hold." He lifted the frame, carefully setting it against her legs. His hands shook, not from fear, but from exhaustion. Slowly, he secured the queen's body inside the brace. "Try," he urged gently. Her jaw clenched. She hated showing weakness, hated struggling, but the fire in his voice pushed her forward. With all her strength, she tried to move. Her body did not obey. The brace creaked, strained, then slipped loose. The medic caught her before she fell. He did not curse or sigh. He only adjusted the straps again. "We will try tomorrow. And the day after. And the day after that," he said. The queen's tears finally escaped, falling down her cheeks. She had not cried in years. Not when her throne was taken. Not when her people abandoned her. But now she wept, because for the first time someone refused to give up on her. The night stretched long. The medic worked under the faint light of dying torches, his hands blistered, his eyes burning. The queen watched him, her chest heavy with something she had not felt in forever, hope. Her body was broken, yes, but his unbroken will became her shield, her strength, her light in the ruins. For the first time in many years, the queen believed she might rise again. The nights grew longer, and the palace ruins grew colder. Dust floated in the air like restless ghosts, but still the medic worked beside the queen. His hands were cracked and his eyes heavy, yet he did not stop. Every day he made small changes to the brace, tightening here, strengthening there, as if each screw and strap carried the weight of destiny. The queen sat silently, her body stiff and unmoving, but her mind sharp and alive. She studied the medic's face when he thought she was not watching. His determination puzzled her. He looked like a man carrying a mountain on his back, yet he kept smiling softly whenever he told her one more try, and then, one night, something changed. The medic was adjusting the brace again, whispering to himself in frustration. "It has to work. It must work." He did not notice the queen's hand until it moved. It was only a finger, a small twitch, but the queen felt it like thunder in her veins, her eyes widened. For years she had been trapped in stillness, her body refusing every command. Now, for the first time, her body answered. A finger, trembling, weak, but alive. Wait. She whispered, her voice sharp with shock. Look! The medic turned, confusion on his face. Then he saw it. The faint twitch of her finger. His heart leapt into his throat. For a moment he could not breathe. Then, with a sudden laugh, he dropped his tools and grabbed her hand. You moved, he whispered. His voice cracked with joy. You moved! The queen felt her heart race. The weight of despair that had crushed her for years cracked open, and a ray of light slipped through. She tried again. Another twitch. Her breath grew heavy, her chest rising with effort. Hope burned in her eyes, fierce and frightening. But the palace was not silent. Unseen eyes had been watching. From the shadows of the ruined halls, whispers began to spread. Servants who had abandoned her carried tales. The queen stirs. The human brings false miracles. Some called it witchcraft. Others called it rebellion. To them, her awakening was a threat. If she returned, their power would fall. The medic knew it too. He felt the weight of danger pressing on his shoulders. At night, he kept watch with a blade at his side, though he was no warrior. By day, he healed and adjusted, never letting fear stop him. One evening, as torches flickered low, the queen spoke with unusual calm. They will not forgive this. You give me hope, and hope is poison to them. The medic met her gaze, his eyes steady. Then let them choke on it, he said. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. For years, no one had dared speak such words in her presence. He was reckless, he was foolish, but he was hers, her healer, her shield. As the days passed, her strength grew slowly. A twitch became a grip. A breath became steadier. Each small victory filled the ruined halls with an energy not felt in years. The queen's spirit, once chained, began to stretch its wings. But danger grew with it. Servants muttered in corners. Messengers carried secret words to hidden masters. Assassins sharpened blades in the dark. The queen felt it too. They will strike before I can stand, she warned. The medic only tightened the brace once more, his hands firm. Then we must be faster, he said. And in the silence of that ruined palace, hope became not just a whisper, but a flame. Small, fragile, but enough to burn a kingdom. The first light of dawn touched the ruins with pale fire. The broken palace seemed almost alive in the morning haze, shadows twisting like waiting hands. The medic had not slept. He sat near the queen, his body slumped but his eyes alert. Tools scattered across the cold stone floor. The queen stirred, weak but no longer lifeless. Her fingers moved now, her breath steady, her eyes filled with quiet strength. Each small victory gave her spirit fire, yet each fire drew darkness closer. That morning, the darkness stepped out from hiding. The heavy doors groaned as a group entered the ruined hall. They were her servants, once trusted, once sworn to her. Their heads bowed low, their voices smooth as silk. But their eyes betrayed them, cold, calculating. My queen, one of them said, falling to his knees. Forgive us for our absence. We return now to serve you. The medic's gut twisted. He saw the way their hands lingered near their cloaks, the way their gazes slid past him as if he were an insect. The queen raised her chin, her voice quiet but sharp. You return, now that you hear whispers of my awakening. Why? To serve? Or to steal what remains? The servant smiled, but it was not a smile of loyalty. We only wish to protect you, Majesty, but this human... His eyes turned to the medic, and poison filled his words. He fills your mind with false hope. He promises miracles, but he leads you only to disappointment. Others joined, hissing like snakes. He corrupts you. He dares touch what is sacred. He binds you to false dreams. The medic clenched his fists. He wanted to speak, to shout, but the queen's gaze held him still. She listened as venom poured into the air, her expression unreadable. Finally, the traitors struck. Two of them seized the medic's arms, dragging him across the floor. His tools clattered against the stones. He struggled, but they were strong, trained in cruelty. "This man is no healer," one shouted. "He is a thief of hearts, a corrupter of queens." The court of betrayers gathered in the ruined throne room, voices rising. "Cast him out. End him before his poison spreads." The medic fought, but the queen's voice rose above the chaos. Silence. Her word cut through the air like a blade. Even in weakness, her command carried weight. Her voice trembled, but it carried fire that none had heard in years. The traitors froze, their grip on the medic loosening. The queen leaned forward in her throne, her body frail, her hands trembling, but her spirit stood tall. "This man has given me more than all of you combined. You mocked me. You abandoned me. You feared my weakness. But he—" Her voice cracked, yet she forced it strong again. "He gave me back hope. He gave me back myself." The traitors shifted uneasily, their confidence shaking under her fire. "You call his work false? Then look upon me," she cried, lifting her trembling hand, forcing her fingers to twitch before them. Gasps spread through the hall. Years of silence, and now I move again. Not because of you, not because of your lies, but because of him. The medic's chest tightened. For the first time, she had defended him not as a servant, but as something greater. The hall was silent. The traitor's power wavered. The queen, though still bound by weakness, had awakened as queen once more. Her spirit roared even as her body trembled. Dawn's light poured through the broken windows, and in that fragile light, a truth stood clear. Betrayal had come, but it had not broken her. It had only reminded the world that their queen still lived. The hall was heavy with silence. The dawn light spilled across the broken floor, painting the faces of the traitors pale. The queen's trembling hand still hovered in the air, proof of her struggle, proof of her return. Her body was frail, but her voice had been enough to shake their courage. The medic stood between them all, his arms still bruised from their grip. His chest rose and fell as if he had just fought a battle, not with blades, but with truth. He looked to the queen, uncertain. Would she dismiss him now? Would she fall back into silence? But she did not. Slowly, painfully, the queen straightened her back. Her crown was long lost, her throne cracked, yet in that moment, she wore the presence of royalty like armor. Her eyes burned like the first fire of the world. "Hear me," she said, her voice cutting through the stillness. "This man is no deceiver. He is no corrupter. He is my healer, my shield, and my chosen protector." Gasps spread among the traitors. Some lowered their eyes. Others clenched their jaws in anger. To them, her words were a storm that tore away their excuses. The medic's breath caught. He had expected nothing. He had come with only his hands, his stubborn will, and the memory of duty. Now the queen was raising him higher than he had ever dreamed. The queen's voice grew stronger as she continued. "He gives me no gold, no promises of power. He gives me what all of you abandoned, hope, and for that he shall stand at my side. Not as servant, not as tool, but as protector, bound by trust." Her words struck the hall like thunder. The traitors stared in shock. A human, honored beside their queen? To them it was unthinkable. But the queen had spoken, and even in weakness, her voice carried the weight of law. The medic lowered his head, his heart pounding. He had never sought reward, yet her trust, her bond, was a treasure greater than gold. The queen turned her gaze to him, her lips softening into something rare, a smile. "You saved more than my life," she said quietly. "You saved my throne. You saved my will. For that no treasure could repay you, only my word and my side." The medic swallowed hard. He had fought wars of blood and disease, but never had he felt so shaken as by those words. He bowed, not as a servant, but as one who chose loyalty freely. "I will stay," he said simply. Her eyes softened, but her voice remained strong as she faced the hall once more. "Mark this day," she told the servants and the watching shadows. "The queen rises not alone, but with the human who dared when none of you would. His name will not be forgotten. Murmurs rippled through the ruined palace. Fear, anger, awe, every emotion stirred. Some would plot revenge, others would whisper rebellion. But none could deny what they had seen. The queen had chosen, and her choice was final. The medic stood taller, though his body was tired and scarred. For the first time since he had entered the ruins, he felt not like a wanderer or a lost healer. He felt part of something greater, part of her story, her throne, her fight. The queen's frail hand reached toward him. Slowly he took it, steady and gentle. A bond sealed not by jewels or crowns, but by suffering shared and trust given. The ruins seemed to breathe again, as if the stones themselves recognized the return of their queen. And though enemies lurked, in the shadows, though danger was far from over, one truth now shone brighter than fear. The queen was not alone. Her protector stood beside her. Forever. The palace ruins no longer felt as silent as before. Whispers filled the broken halls. The queen lived. The queen had spoken. And beside her, a human stood where no alien dared. The medic walked the corridors at dawn, his shadow long against the fractured walls. His arms still carried scars from battles with assassins, his hands raw from endless work, but his spirit was unbroken. He had come into the ruins as a lost traveler, yet now every step he took echoed with purpose. The queen's name returned to the lips of her people. At first, in secret. In hushed voices behind doors, in fearful murmurs at night. She breathes, she commands, she returns. But with every passing day the whispers grew bolder, and always his name was tied to hers, the healer who defied tradition, the man who lifted a queen when all others turned away. The medic did not seek praise. He kept to his work, cleaning wounds, adjusting braces, guarding her chamber when shadows grew thick. Yet he noticed the eyes that followed him, servants torn between fear and awe, nobles burning with envy, common folk daring to hope again. The queen herself changed as her strength slowly returned. Though her body remained fragile, her voice grew steady, her mind sharper than steel. She no longer hid behind silence. She gave orders, asked questions, challenged lies. Each word she spoke rebuilt her throne, piece by piece. And always, the medic stood at her side. One evening, as torches flickered against broken marble, the queen called to him. He approached, bowing slightly out of habit, but she shook her head. "Do not bow," she said. Her eyes were firm, though softened by warmth. "You are not my servant. You are my equal in this struggle. Without you, I would still be a ghost, upon this throne." He met her gaze, uncertain. "I only did what I knew was right." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Then may the world learn what right truly means." From that day, word spread faster. Stories twisted through villages and markets, of a queen abandoned but unbroken, and of a human medic who stood where none else dared. Some told it as a tale of love, others as defiance, others as destiny. Whatever the version, one truth always remained. He had done what no alien heart would do. Enemies still plotted. Assassins still prowled. Yet the bond between healer and queen grew stronger with every trial. Together they endured. Together they faced the shadows. And slowly, the ruins began to change. Where dust once ruled, firelight returned. Where silence lingered, footsteps echoed. The palace was not yet whole, but it was alive again, because she was alive again. The medic never asked for gold. He never asked for land or titles. His reward was something deeper, something few could ever claim. The trust of a queen who had once been forgotten, and the bond of a heart that had once been closed. Years later, when travelers spoke of the alien kingdom, they always told the same tale. Of the silent throne that breathed again. Of the queen who rose from ruin. Of the human who became her shield. Some called him reckless, some called him foolish, but most called him what he truly was. Legacy. Not because of treasure. Not because of crowns, but because he had given his life to protect a heart, and in doing so had written a story no gold could ever buy. And so, in the ruined halls that slowly healed into glory, the medic stood forever in memory, scarred, humble, unyielding, a man who dared where none would, a healer whose name became eternal.